And yet we say it's okay. It's not okay. Because that's a weakness. That's a limitation. Remember what I said, if you can't overcome your limitations, you're limited to that limitation that you manifest, the dark side. These are all dark side issues. Anyone else? Yes?
Yes. I find how it has affected me. I find I totally agree with that. And I find when I hear the news or when I hear other people talking, or when you see the politicians, I find that I become disillusioned, disappointed, and because you want to put your trust in people that are supposed to be role models and they aren't. And I find when I talk to people, they're just, oh, well, that's just the way it is. And I become angry. And not only just angry, I become livid. And every time it's time for me to pay my taxes, I become extremely livid that they're not paying the people are not paying the taxes. When I'm paying with my little salary, I have to pay my taxes. And I worked for a federal judge a couple of years ago before they passed away. And when I think about the people that were just all over him, because of this power that he had, very, very, very wealthy. And we would walk along over on the east side of Manhattan. We would walk, and there would be a vendor on the corner. And every time we passed, he'd say, "Oh my God, I can't stand that smell," and and that motor. And one day I just casually said, not thinking anything, and I said, "Well, you could have that removed." And he apparently hadn't thought about it because the next week the man was gone. And I said, "This man has to feed his family and whatever, but this is the power, whatever they want to do." And they would be responsible for nothing. As Trump said, he could shoot somebody on Fifth Avenue and nothing happens to him. So that makes me very angry, and it's affecting me internally. And I'm talking livid.
Okay.
That's why I'm here, one of the reasons.
All right. Understand that everything you just said, you're angry, you're livid at inequality. At the rich pay very little taxes, corporations making billions of dollars frequently pay no taxes. We can't get out of any of that. They're held to a standard that we're held to a different standard. They can use their power to adversely affect other people, and if we did it, we'd be shamed for it. And you watch media hoping that there'll be someone who holds a higher standard of ideals you could respect as a role model. Well, first, there's no reason to be angry or livid about anything. You've personalized it. You've projected upon other people your desire for them to be more like you. We have no right to do that. We have no right to have someone else live by our expectations. That is a road that you shouldn't go down. Instead, we should focus exclusively upon what we would do if we had power and what we believe is ethical and moral and honest, and then become active in doing that. I never watch these televisions. I never listen to the radio. I don't, because it's a waste of my time. I have no idols out there. I have nobody I trust because they haven't earned my trust. No one's in my life until they prove they deserve to be in my life. And I don't go into anyone else's life unless I can prove I deserve to be in their life. Because people just take everything for granted. And you shouldn't. And so therefore, I'm not frustrated by what other people do. I don't get angry, I don't lose sleep. Because the Buddha had a statement paraphrasing, don't attach to the outcome. Be able to detach. When you can detach, then if I'm counseling someone and I give them a lot of my time, and I've never charged a penny for counseling nearly 70,000 people in my career, what if I spent hours and hours and hours and then the person did just the opposite? I'm going to feel bad. Gee whiz, why didn't... No. I give, that's my gift. What they do with it is up to them. I provide opportunity. What people do with it is up to them. I counseled, in fact, it was a friend of John Q. And he said, would you do me a favor? I was just going out on a trip, and I was going that afternoon. I said, okay, I got 2 hours. I'll give that guy 2 hours. So he brought this very famous musician in, and the man has got multiple health problems. But I spent all this time going over what he should do. And I said, can you do this? Oh, I not only can do it, I'm going to do it. It starts right now, today. Good. Because if you do that, you have a chance of helping yourself with these conditions. So then they left, and I finished up, and I started to go down to get a cab. And my office for a long time was at 83rd and Broadway. Right on the corner is a restaurant called Five Napkins. As I'm walking up to the corner, I look, there he is, eating a gigantic hamburger, cola, smoking a cigarette with French fries. Everything that he did that caused him to get sick, and he went from, yes, I'm going to do it, to doing just the opposite, like that, in 5 minutes. Now, what if I personalized it? What if I said, do you realize I just gave you 2 hours of my life for free, and this is how you show appreciation? No, because it's not my body that's going to be abused by what I'm doing. It's his. The day will come when he is going to get so sick, and all the people in the world who appreciated that person's music will then not realize that he helped kill himself with his fork and his knife and his lack of discipline. So understand that when you start associating with other people, your need for them to be a certain way, then they will try to give you the impression, like Barack Obama and Bill Clinton and others, that that's who they are. That's not who they are. They are what they do. Just look at what they do. Look at the laws they pass. Look at how it impacts other people. If they say, I'm for you, change, we're all together, and then they put people in prison for what they did, taking drugs. 3 presidents acknowledged taking drugs: George Bush, Bill Clinton, and Barack Obama. For the very drugs they took, millions of people went to prison. And Bill Clinton was the architect of those, and Hillary Clinton. You know, what kind of world is it that you can't see a person for what they do? Because your illusion, your perception is they are what they say, not what they do. So this is a good example of how your illusion is your limitation. Once again, I'll tell you, I will never judge you by what you say, because we can all say and do stupid things. But I will judge you based upon what you do. And you are what you do. Now, if what you do and what you say are the same, good. Then you're an authentic person. And rarely, rarely have I ever found that in people of power. Rarely. It's not impossible, it's just very difficult. And I trust no one from academia. That's a snake pit and a cesspool of a different magnitude of self-righteousness and conceit and guarded defensive and lack of open-mindedness. But we won't talk about that. That'll be a separate discussion. All right? So when you start checking off all the people I don't respect and don't listen to, well, there's every institution, every person of power in the world. All right? I'm just honest about it. Because I'm judging them based upon what they do. Right? It's that simple. Don't tell me that you are for a person's health and then take money from pharmaceutical companies, from specific drugs that can kill people. Don't tell me you're for peace when you have supported 7 regime changes around the world and take no responsibility for the people that were suffering. So I'm going to judge you for going into countries that no one had a right to go into. They were the best run countries in Africa, and that was Libya. And yet, the richest country in Africa, Libya, the longest lived people in Libya, the highest level of literacy, Libya, higher than the United States and Great Britain. Yeah, Libya. The most freedom of any country in the world for Muslim women, Libya. You go to jail if you insult a woman in Libya. No crime, Libya. The terrorists who tried to destabilize, in prison. Clean streets and safe streets. You can walk down any street in Tripoli or Benghazi, Libya. The greatest human-made, let's say, public project, the Great Water Reservoir, Libya. No debt, Libya. and wanting to go off the gold, wanting to go off the dollar and go to the gold denier and unify Africa as its own trading bloc, Libya and Gaddafi. Represented no threat to anyone. Now look at Libya. Selling slaves, getting slaves coming from other countries in Africa, and then taking out their organs. Yeah, totally destroyed the entire country. Tens of thousands of people killed. And no one has apologized. No one has said, that was a bad move. So how am I supposed to find truth and respect in the people who caused that to happen? And we're talking about a whole nation. All the media, Rachel Maddow, all of them. The banking system, military-industrial complex, the Pentagon, the Washington, all are guilty. But not a single person will lose a night's sleep over that genocide. That's how the world is. The difference is I'm willing to call it out for what it is. I'm not willing to allow these people to pass. Now, me as an individual, I don't count. Nothing I say or do is going to change any of the people in power. But hopefully, the things that matter to the average person, if they choose to use them, can make a difference, and have. And you go from helping a person, if you help a person with health, and they say, you know, the last 50 years, everything Gary said about health has been right. He opposed DDT and glyphosate and all these other things that we now look back and say, we shouldn't have done it. But the media, the New York Times, Washington Post, all the top politicians, they were all for that. It means they were all wrong. So maybe he might be right about some other things, about the environment. What I predicted 10 years ago, all that's coming true. And I mean, it's coming through strong. So then maybe we should, start looking at who's on the side of truth instead of who's on the side of power. Because today, truth has no power. Power is on the side of those who lie and deceive. And the media is the handmaiden of all of those who are corrupt in power positions. So, anyone else have one last input, if anyone has one?
Well, how we as citizens, we give in to fear and apathy and don't think we can make change. But we as individuals can make change, for instance, by becoming vegan. That's where one person can make a difference. Also, educating ourselves and coming together as a group of people to tell our leaders that we're not going to accept this by holding them accountable.
Okay, you've made two statements and you're conflating them. You as an individual can become a vegan. It will not change the environment at all. You as an individual can get with a couple other people and protest something. It will not make a difference. The tools that historically have worked won't work today. And they won't work. Nothing works today. Nothing. Because we're not in enough pain. When people are not in enough pain, they won't protest. They have to be desperate. In other countries, when there's no food, there are food riots. When there's a mass protest in France because they were going to change pensions and change retirement age, directly impacting people, they marched by the millions and changed it. But that was millions. In America, you're lucky to get 3 people to do anything, and then they do it once and say, I did my thing. No, it's got to be consistent. You have to be an example of what your change is. You have to show them that you can challenge their power. That's the only message they'll ever hear. So you write a letter to your legislators saying, would you consider looking at the dangers of 5G technology, electromagnetic frequency, and Wi-Fi? No one's going to read it. But if you wrote articles and did documentaries, or you took that information to schools and you passed out leaflets, and one day, through word of mouth and consumer interest, because of their own self-preservation, they began to pay attention, and now you have 30,000 people in one state write their legislators, then you get their attention, because they need those 30,000 votes. And then you start compounding that by going to the media And then you show up with a demonstration outside of their office, local office and national office. Now you really got their attention. Now they're at a place where they're forced, and by the way, legislators never do anything, they're always forced by their counselors and their office personnel to what they got to do to survive. And it's all about survival. All day long, they're thinking about or acting in ways that earn them some money coming in so they get reelected. Little time is spent on actually doing anything. And they have large staffs who do all the thinking, all the research, and they're just a talking head outside. I found most people to be functionally illiterate in the body politic. They know procedures and they know the rules, but they don't know any of the topics in depth. I mean, it's embarrassing how stupid our legislators are, but they are. Their staffs are not stupid. They're the smart ones, but they're careerists. They're going to go with the lobbying money, opens the door and says, you pass this bill, you pass that bill, you do this for us, and you'll have a job in the military-industrial complex, you'll have a job, you know, and that's where what they do. It's all a game. Everything is corrupt. I wish it weren't. I wish we actually had some ideal politicians. We don't.
Well, isn't it true that the system corrupts? Even those that...
No, the system doesn't exist. People corrupt themselves by compromising between the truth that is self-evident and the position of allowing themselves to be entitled to things other people wouldn't have or they wouldn't have if they did it the old-fashioned way. So they take shortcuts. Everybody's on a shortcut on methamphetamine. You know, everybody's speeding to get something done. No one takes their time to do anything, and everything is about the con. Everybody masters, you know, the platitudes, and then look how they live. You know, it's a vicious, vicious environment. But those who have the most power make the most money and are set for life. Once you're in that system, you're set for life. And that's why people are willing to compromise. Well, look, my mortgage is this, and my limousine is that, and my cars are this, and the next thing you know, they've given themselves a rationalization for why they are corrupted. But it starts with them, not the system. People volunteer. People fight to get into the system. Now, once in, then they act with indignity if you suggest that they compromise anything. Oh, no. Nonsense. I had a radio show for 36 years every day on PFW in Washington, D.C., 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I did a lot of lectures, dozens and dozens of lectures and premieres in Washington. A lot of people who worked in every agency of government would come and listen to the show, and they would tell me, you have no idea how right you are, and it's worse than what you think. And they tell me all these stories. So I know what I'm talking about. The difference is, I just don't give them my energy. I don't read their magazines, read their articles, watch their television programs. I withdraw my energy and put it in something constructive, something I can control. And you could do the same. All right? That's it for tonight.